Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are taking an absolutely wild ride through space and time. We're going to be using the groundbreaking James Webb Space Telescope as our very own cosmic time machine. With it, we're diving into one of the most fascinating processes in the entire universe, and we're going to break it down so it's super easy to understand. We're talking about exactly how stars are born, how they live out their lives, and how they eventually die.
You know, it sounds kind of like sci-fi, right? But it's actually completely true. Did you know that stars have a life cycle that is surprisingly similar to our own human stages of life? I mean, they don't just hang out forever in the sky doing nothing. They actually have a childhood where they're born, an adulthood where they shine their brightest, an old age where they swell up and change, and eventually, a final death. By the end of this explainer, you're going to know exactly how this incredible cosmic timeline works. So, here's our quick roadmap for today. 1. Webb, the ultimate time machine. 2. Stellar nebula, star nurseries. 3. Red giants and our sun. 4. The death of a star. And 5. Beyond stars, alien worlds. Let's jump right in.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Webb, the ultimate time machine.
Okay, $10 billion. That is a massive number. It took NASA 25 years to design and build this absolute masterpiece of engineering, and yeah, it cost a staggering $10 billion. But for that price, humanity basically bought the ultimate camera. I mean, it's so powerful that it recently captured a cluster of galaxies whose light has literally been traveling to us for 13.1 billion years. Think about that. We're looking deep into the past, getting a real-time glimpse of the universe's early history.
Now, to capture these mind-blowing images, this telescope has to operate under some pretty extreme conditions. It has to be kept unbelievably cold, specifically minus 266.75 degrees Celsius. That is literally just a hair above absolute zero. So to keep it that freezing cold and block the blazing heat of the sun, Webb doesn't just orbit the Earth like the Hubble telescope did. Instead, it's parked 1.5 million kilometers away at a special spot called the L2 point, hiding in Earth's shadow behind a sun shield the size of a whole tennis court. And oh, check out that focal length. Your standard camera lens might be, say, 50 millimeters. Webb's is over 130 meters.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this right here is Webb's actual superpower. The light we see with our own eyes, like the colors of the rainbow, is called visible light, and it has really short wavelengths. But Webb? It doesn't just look at visible light, it looks at infrared light, which has much longer wavelengths. So why does that matter? Well, because longer wavelengths can actually pass right through cosmic dust and thick clouds of gas in space. Just like how radio waves are long enough to pass straight through the walls of your house, infrared light lets Webb see completely straight through the dusty, cloudy obstacles of deep space.
Moving right along to Section 2, Stellar Nebulae, Star Nurseries.
That whole superpower of seeing right through dust leads us perfectly to the very first stage of our star's life cycle. Let's check out where stars are actually born. So, a star's life begins in a nebula. Simply put, a nebula is this massive, beautifully bright area in space formed by swirling clouds of dust and gases. You can just think of it as a giant, shiny cosmic cloud. In Hindi, this is beautifully known as Niharika. And thanks to Webb, we have these jaw-dropping images of the Carina Nebula, showing off what scientists call the cosmic cliffs. When you look at these glowing mountains of gas with Webb's infrared cameras, it reveals all these tiny, brilliant red dots scattered everywhere. Those little dots, they are infant stars, literally right at the moment of their birth, scooping up dust and gas to grow.
Just to keep this super clear for you, here is a quick map of a star's life cycle. Step 1 is the stellar nebula, that birthplace we just looked at. From there, it gathers up enough material to become Step 2, a young star. Now, it's going to spend the vast majority of its life right here in this stable adulthood phase. But eventually, as it runs out of fuel, it balloons outwards into Step 3, a red giant. As it hits its final dying stages, it sheds its outer layers to become Step 4, a planetary nebula. And finally, when it's all over, all that's left is Step 5, the glowing core known as a white dwarf.
Which brings us to Section 3, Red Giants and Our Sun.
So, what exactly happens when a star hits its old age? Well, we don't even have to look far for an example. Our very own sun is currently a healthy, totally stable star right in the middle of its adulthood. But it won't stay this way forever. In about 5 billion years, it's going to start running out of hydrogen fuel and enter its old age phase, expanding massively to become a red giant. And red giants are huge. When our sun swells up, it's actually going to completely swallow the planets Mercury and Venus. Yeah, Earth's living conditions would be totally destroyed, but hey, don't panic. 5 billion years is an unbelievably long time away. Humanity has plenty of time to, figure out the tech to push Earth's orbit back and stay safe.
All right, section 4, the death of a star.
Now, what's really interesting about this next bit is what happens after that red giant phase. Webb actually captured the spectacular death of a star by pointing its lens at a binary pair, meaning two stars that orbit each other. So one of these stars is dying, and over thousands of years, this dying star has been throwing off these massive, beautiful clouds of gas and dust. But because the two stars are spinning around each other so fast, their gravity stirs this whole gas cloud up. It is literally exactly like how you'd stir a spoon in a glass to mix sugar into water. That incredible, swishing, glowing cloud is what we call a planetary nebula.
Remember that dust-busting superpower we talked about earlier? Well, here it is in action. Webb uses two main cameras. The near-infrared camera, or NIRCam, uses slightly shorter wavelengths. So in its picture of this dying star, you see these thick, gorgeous dust clouds, but it looks like there's only one star in the center. But then you have the mid-infrared instrument, the MIRICam. It uses much longer wavelengths. Its photo punches right through that thick dust cloud and boom! Suddenly, you can clearly see the two orbiting stars sitting right there in the middle. It totally changes our understanding of what's really happening out there.
So to wrap up our star's journey, once that big swirling cloud of gas, the planetary nebula, finally drifts off and fades away into deep space, what's actually left behind? Well, all that remains of that once massive star is just its core. We call this a white dwarf. You can basically think of a white dwarf as the glowing embers left over after a really big, roaring campfire has finally burned out. It's the peaceful, incredibly dense final resting state of the star.
And finally, Section 5, Beyond Stars, Alien Worlds. So now that we've got a really good grip on the stars themselves, let's take a look at the stuff orbiting them. We're hunting for exoplanets. In the simplest terms, an exoplanet is just any planet that lives outside of our own solar system. And while Webb's main gig was looking at early galaxies and stars, it turns out it is perfectly built to scan these distant alien worlds to see if they might be hiding something totally game-changing, like the ingredients for life.
But wait, you might be wondering, if these planets are literally trillions of miles away, how on Earth do we know what's on them? We can't exactly fly over and snap an iPhone photo of their oceans, right? Well, Webb uses this genius piece of tech called a spectrograph. Think about a green leaf on Earth. It looks green to us because it absorbs the red and blue light and only reflects the green light back into our eyes. Molecules in space do the exact same thing. They absorb or block very specific wavelengths of light. So when a star's light shines through an exoplanet's atmosphere, Webb just measures exactly which colors of light got blocked. By plotting that blocked light on a graph, scientists can figure out exactly what kind of molecules are floating around in that alien air. For instance, Webb pointed its gear at an exoplanet called WASP 96b, which is a mind-boggling 1,150 light-years away. And the graph showed this massive spike of blocked light at one very specific wavelength. Scientists know exactly what causes that specific spike. It's water, H2O. We actually proved there is water on an alien planet without ever taking a direct physical photo of it. Now don't go packing your bags just yet, because WASP 96b is over 530 degrees Celsius, so it's a completely uninhabitable boiling nightmare. But the point is, the technology absolutely works. And because the tech works so perfectly, scientists are aiming Webb at way more promising candidates. Enter TRAPPIST-1e. This is an exoplanet located relatively close by, just about 40 light-years away, and it orbits an ultra-cool dwarf star. Just look at these measurements compared to our own Earth. Its radius is 91% of Earth's. Its mass is 77%. The surface gravity, 93%. It is remarkably Earth-like in its size, and the best part is, it sits right smack in the habitable zone, where the temperature could be just right.
So the crucial point is, how are we going to know if TRAPPIST-1e actually sustains life? Well, scientists say we need to check 3 main boxes. First up, liquid water, not just steam or frozen ice. Second, a solid rock surface that you could actually stand on. And third, a very specific type of atmosphere containing a mix of carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor. Over the coming months and years, the Webb telescope is going to be carefully analyzing the light passing right through TRAPPIST-1e's atmosphere, hunting for this exact chemical fingerprint.
Which leaves us with this absolute mind-bender of a question. Could the ultra-cool dwarf star TRAPPIST-1 actually be hiding a second Earth? The James Webb Space Telescope has already unraveled the beautiful, violent life cycles of stars in ways we literally never thought possible. Next, it just might answer the single greatest question in all of human history. Are we alone? So next time you look up at the night sky, think about those distant solar systems and remember that somewhere up there, our ultimate time machine is hard at work trying to find the answers. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.